think for this we had about 130,
Wow.
120. I think
Wow.
it's a lot, and so there you're like, all right, well, this stuff's brilliant. This, I can fast forward through because I'm losing my mind, endless things of planting squibs in the fake walls on that set. All right, well, I know, like, in this bin are just all my squib shots, and if we do anything with that, you can kind of simplify the process a bit. But so you know what your scenes are, and you know what you need to get across, and then I write down 3x5 cards with all the scenes that I know I'm going to use, get a big bulletin board, and my editor and I sit there and sort of map out Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Where do you need climaxes, you need cliffhangers, you need all the things you need in a narrative film to make a good feature documentary. It needs to be paced differently. You can't just roll along and keep feeding people information.
Right. Right.
You have to have a sense of when do you have, an observational scene, when do you have some interview, when do you go to a music montage, and everything has to, it's this incredibly delicate house, and you take one piece out and everything falls apart. And every film I've made, I've noticed that it's this like rearranging, and it's incredibly difficult. There's always one thing. It's like, how do we get from here to here? There's one step that you can never quite get. And so you put up your 3x5s, you build the thing, you edit your scenes, you put them together, you watch it, and you know where it's working, where it's not, and then you rearrange your 3x5s and you try again. And it's this process of trial and error. And then when you get it and it's working and the structure's there, you can't imagine it being any other way, but it takes a ridiculously long time to get to the point where it's working. And until it's working, it's just not working, and you kind of know that, or the bits and pieces that are working. And for instance, now we have to go back and cut 10 minutes out of this for BBC, which I think is a good idea. Not that there's anything in it that I don't love, but I think that, or that isn't justified, but I think that it is a little long as an experience, certainly for television. But the problem is that our original cut was 2 hours and 45 minutes, 2 hours and 50 minutes. And that was, every one of those scenes was doing work too. So watching it through last night, I'm trying to figure out, it's like, well, I could take that lags it a little, but if you take that, then you don't get from here to there, or then you don't know this, and this other scene's gonna have to come out, 25 minutes down the line because you're not gonna understand that. And, it's hard, especially in a film with this many stories.
One thing in Office Tiger and in Shot Bombay, the audience were involved. Lots of laughter. If you've seen the screening yesterday, lots of people were clapping.
Yeah.
Is that the filmmaker side of you coming in and saying, all right, let's put something in here where the audience, Apurva actually saying, I'm the most prepared director in Bollywood.
Oh, did that get a laugh? I was out for that. In this audience, that gets a laugh. That certainly didn't get a laugh. It doesn't get a laugh in Austin, Texas, but I guess with a room full of Bollywood directors. Yeah.
Because from academics to Afghanistan to Chennai, Bombay, again Afghanistan.
Right.
Is there a journey there? Or is it a love affair with the subcontinent?
Oh, God. No, it's purely accidental, actually, but it becomes a love affair in a way, right? You go to these places, I find out about a story. I think this is an interesting story. I know, because I've studied anthropology and I read a lot, I know about these places, but I wasn't ever an expert. My background was, I was an Africanist. I spent a lot of time in West Africa. But, you plunge into these things, you get to know the people, you get to know the place, and it becomes an obsession. And you think, when I did Beauty Academy, I thought, oh God, I have to find a way to get back to Afghanistan right away. This is amazing, and all these people, and I don't want to lose touch with them. And then, of course, found the Office Tiger story, jumped on that, and then, it was like, oh God, India is so great, I have to stay in India. So it was really great actually doing 2 films in a row in the same country, even though it couldn't be more different subjects, and Madras and Bombay are very different as well. And, part of me is dying to do another film in India, and part of me is like, I don't want to become, the American girl who makes all the films about India or what, you know what I mean? I think it's important to me to keep doing different topics and have it be, I want my films to have a stylistic similarity in approach, but I don't want them all to feel like they're about the same thing.
The American Girl in Afghanistan, 2 films.
Exactly, right.
The next film, what is it all about? Afghan Elvis? Or?
Well, hopefully. It's still very much in early stages of development, but it's this Afghan pop star musician from the 70s who, if you meet any anyone from Afghanistan or Iran or Tajikistan, that region, and you mention his name, the name Ahmed Zahir, everybody knows his music, and it remains, he died in 1979, but it remains incredibly meaningful to not only people who saw him and were listening to him at the time, but also people who were born after he died, because I think it's come to represent, or what I think from talking to people that I've met, it seems to have come to represent this country that no longer exists, really. I mean, the Afghanistan that he's singing about and that he's a piece of has been completely destroyed. This sort of cosmopolitan urban nightclubs, men and women going out dancing, private parties, big houses, none of that exists, and the optimism and the attitude there is all gone. So it's partly a portrait of a diaspora and the world that they want to remember, but it's also political history. They're telling his story because his music became more and more political. He was from a political family, and his life corresponds to he was coming to fame in the early 70s, which were the early days of hope for this new Republic of Afghanistan, and he was killed in 1979, right before the Soviet invasion. So what I'm trying to do there, and I think the experience that's shot in Bombay will be very helpful, is weave together a political history with a personal biography, so that it's not just a heavy, depressing political biography. It's about this amazing musician, but along the way you grow to understand a lot more about Afghanistan, because that period in Afghan history isn't really told.
Sorry for jumping back in.
It's all right. I can talk about anything.
Yeah, in Office Tigers.
Yeah.
I know every filmmaker brings his or her sensibilities into how you're making it. The company as such was shown in a light which was where a common perception among Indians, among people who are working in call center, long hours and less pay, but there is a loyalty to them.
Right.
Portrayed as good. The management was pretty good. Shot in Bombay again. The movie as such could have been any other movie.
Right.
But a few filmmakers would have had reservations when it's shot in Lokhandwala, where they would actually say, all right, you're romanticizing the whole movie, whereas a lot of people do not like the movie as such.
Mm-hmm.
So do you bring a bias into the kind of story that you're trying to tell, or you totally move away and say, all right, this is my material, I don't have any preconceived notions, I'm going to present it?
I definitely have preconceived notions, but what I try to do is explore them in the process of making a film. So, I mean, the other way that the other kind of guide that I use when I'm figuring out my narratives is, and this gets back to being an outsider, not making films about, the town in upstate New York that I grew up in, it's a journey of discovering something and learning about people and a place and the story. And because I have to learn all of this stuff in real time through production, I kind of try to recreate that process in the edit, because you have to make something that both speaks to a theater full of directors from Bombay and someone who's and someone who's never heard of any of these people, didn't even know that they made movies in India. I mean, there are people who know that little, and trying to make something that speaks to all of those audiences. So for Office Tigers, I mean, outsourcing is a really hot issue, both in India and here. I mean, here it's sort of an automatic, taking away our jobs, evil, xenophobic response. Over there, it's exploiting these kids, it's ruining their lives, it's not teaching them any good skills. I mean, on the other hand, there's all the money coming in. I mean, I think, so Office Tigers, for instance, my personal feeling was these are a lot of talented people wasting their minds. But I think it would be very condescending for me to come in and say, you're a smart person, what are you doing working in this, silly company where you're just like, pushing paper?